Yeah, it's cooked, guys. It's cooked. The WNBA is officially cooked, man. Sophie Cunningham will probably be going to Project B as well. I can already see the writing on the wall, and these WNBA players.
Sophie Cunningham has just dropped confirmation on what many have been quietly speculating for weeks. But here's the part that really gets me. This isn't merely about a player seeking a higher paycheck. She goes on to lay bare the WNBA's deepest vulnerabilities. I'm not exaggerating when I say this could set off a full-scale league shutdown. There's a key point most people aren't noticing right now. The WNBA isn't only haggling over salaries in these CBA talks, they're attempting something far more controversial. Exclusivity clauses that could completely prevent players from joining Project B. Pause for a moment and think about that. We're talking about 7- and 8-figure contracts that athletes would have to reject just to remain in the WNBA, and Sophie made it abundantly clear where she stands. But hold on, because what she says in this upcoming interview exposes exactly why the league is in a state of panic.
Bell had an interview with one Sophie Cunningham, and she asked her about Project B and some things about the Indiana Fever and things of that nature. And it's very interesting and very telling, some of the things that Caitlin Clark had to say. I said Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham had to say. And
did you catch that? Seriously, why wouldn't you? That's the question capable of appending everything the WNBA has built so far. And here's the twist. Sophie isn't a bench player earning minimum wage. She's a key contributor for the Indiana Fever, the team that just had the most watched WNBA season in history. Largely thanks to Caitlin Clark. If Sophie opts for Project B's offer, the ripple effect would be immediate. But there's even more explosive activity behind the scenes that nobody is reporting. The last official meeting between WNBA leadership and the Players Association was 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, Project B is actively rolling out multi-million-dollar contracts daily. And the WNBA? They're crawling at a snail's pace. That tells you something. They're scrambling. They thought they held bargaining power. But Sophie's revelations about the real state of negotiations tell a completely different story.
Yeah, made it clear that when it comes to CBA negotiations, things are not progressing at a pace that seems particularly helpful or even appropriate. She noted that her understanding is the last time the WNBA leaders and the WNBPA met was 2 weeks ago, and said, I know our execs are talking with their people every single day. I don't think there's been much movement. I think at least there's communication. So that's the biggest thing for us. But normally we don't have meetings unless something big is happening or if they need to update us on what they're talking about.
Progress? Barely any. That's diplomat speak for things moving nowhere fast. And here's the kicker, Sophie isn't alone in feeling this frustration. Players all over the league are observing negotiations drag while Project B is literally handing out checks as we speak. The psychological pressure here is unreal. Each day the WNBA delays, Project B becomes more appealing. Each week that passes without a deal, more players begin to question their loyalty. Now, here's where it gets truly shocking. Sophie admitted in an interview something that directly contradicts what WNBA executives have publicly claimed. The league keeps suggesting a breakthrough is near. But listen carefully to how Sophie describes the actual reality of what's unfolding.
Cunningham doesn't see a problem with Project B. Cunningham also spoke about Project B in the latest professional women's basketball league that's been announced. Not too many details are available yet about the league, but it was hashed out by a group of investors who initially hoped to create a rival to the NBA. When that didn't work, they turned their attention to the W and women's basketball. For Cunningham, the appeal of the new league is financial. We know Sophie's about the bag. She want her bread. Project B is reportedly offering some players $2 to $3 million salaries to participate in the league from November to April. That's not a short season, though. She said, I don't know much about it. You know, you see stuff on social media, but I know how social media goes, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But, you know, if people are going to be paying you multi-million dollars deals, why would you not?
If someone is offering you a multi-million-dollar contract, why would you say no? There it is, the question that undermines the WNBA's entire negotiating leverage. Here's what most people don't see. The WNBA isn't only in competition with Project B for players, they're up against simple logic. Sophie wants to buy a home. She's been transparent about that. She isn't being greedy or disloyal, she's attempting to safeguard her financial future while her market value is at its peak. Yet the WNBA is effectively asking her to reject life-changing wealth to maintain their exclusivity. We all know how that story ends. Even more striking is the contradiction Sophie highlighted regarding the social justice messaging the WNBA has promoted. Take note of what she points out next.
Listen, I've been very clear. If Project B called KTV on the way to Project B. It is what it is. It is what it is. And she's been very clear about where she stands in all of this, and that she's trying to get paid. It's the business. My whole thing is there are some social warriors and advocate warriors who going to Project B has been a complete contradiction of all the things they've been trying to push for in WNBA and all this other stuff. I wish they would have just said, hey man, we just want to get paid more, and they could stop all of this other foolishness that they've been doing. And just say, hey, it's strictly about the bread. We could respect and understand if it's strictly about the bread, but once y'all all try to be like this activist league and all this other stuff.
This part truly blows my mind. For years, WNBA players have branded themselves as an activist league, fighting for equality, fair compensation, and workers' rights. And I have respect for that struggle. But now Project B enters with actual, tangible money, not promises, not projections, not future revenue sharing, but real contracts. Suddenly, all the activism seems to fade into the background. Sophie essentially voiced the quiet truth. It's about the money. That's honest. That's real. And it completely dismantles the narrative that this league was ever about anything beyond paychecks. I'm not criticizing players absolutely deserve to maximize their income. But let's stop pretending this is some moral crusade. As soon as a better offer surfaces, people will take it. The most fascinating part? Sophie's comments about her future with the Fever perfectly illustrate how personal stakes collide with business.
Cunningham addressed her future with the Fever. Cunningham also admitted that there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to the WNBA's 2026 season, which makes it more difficult to know if she can plan to be on the Indiana Fever next year. Like most of the league, Cunningham will be a free agent and her spot on the team is not guaranteed. There's a lot of uncertainty, like you said, with the CBA, with the money, if we're even going to have a league next year, and then people want to come back. We're trying to keep our core together. The Fever battled through several season-ending injuries, including Cunningham's own. Yeah, this was a season from hell for the Indiana in terms of injuries, man. And put in a strong performance during the WNBA playoffs this season.
There's significant uncertainty over whether the league will even exist next year. Let that sink in. Sophie Cunningham, a pivotal figure on the most popular WNBA team in history, isn't even certain the league will continue. And this isn't rumor, this is inside knowledge from someone directly involved. The WNBA teeters on the edge. Here's what makes this explosive. Sophie wants to remain with Indiana. She wants to play alongside Caitlin Clark. She wants to compete for championships. But she refuses to compromise her financial security to do so. This is game theory in motion. The league believes it can coerce players into choosing loyalty over money through exclusivity rules, but Project B has rewritten the entire equation. The offer is so compelling that the choice is clear. And once Sophie opts out, you better believe Kelsey Mitchell is watching. Aaliyah Boston is watching. Even Caitlin Clark is watching. And this part is exactly what should terrify league officials.
Back Caitlin Clark, obviously the GOAT, it's her team. You re-sign Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hall. That's our core four, period. That's the core four, the original core four from Caitlin Clark's rookie season. Caitlin, Kelsey, Lexi, Aaliyah. Then after that, you bring back Sophie Cunningham and you bring back Michaela Timpson and we go from there. I'm open to Ari McDonald coming off the bench. She does not have to. She doesn't have to be here, but I'm open to her coming off the bench. I'm open to a Chloe Bibby return. Those are some things I'm open to, but they don't have to happen. They don't have to be here.
When Sophie speaks about reuniting the core of the team, listen carefully. She's saying something profound. She wants Caitlin, Kelsey, Lexi, Alia, and herself back together. That's the foundation for a championship squad. But each of these players is either a free agent now or will become one soon. Each is receiving offers from Project B. Each is running the same calculations Sophie is making. Here's the irony: the WNBA created this predicament themselves. They had years to implement competitive salaries, multiple chances to design contracts that retain talent. Instead, they grew complacent, assuming loyalty would outweigh financial incentives. They expected players to sacrifice for the greater good of the league, and now they're blindsided that Sophie Cunningham is openly discussing lucrative offers from a competitor. This has escalated far beyond negotiations. This is now a full-blown crisis. But the tipping point becomes crystal clear once you see exactly what Project B's offerings.
Sophie's about the bag. She want her bread. Project B is reportedly offering some players $2 to $3 million salaries to participate in the league from November to April. That's not a short season, though. She said, I don't know much about it. You know, you see stuff on social media, but I know how social media goes, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But, you know, if people are going to be paying you multi-million dollars deals, why would you not?
$2 to $3 million from November to April. That's not just a larger paycheck than the WNBA provides. That's transformative wealth for players who have spent their careers earning six-figure salaries. And here's the kicker: Project B's season overlaps directly with WNBA's May to September schedule. This isn't a side league like Unrivaled. It's head-to-head competition. The WNBA cannot accommodate both. Either players join Project B and take control of their schedules, or the league enforces exclusivity and risks losing top talent. There's no compromise, and Sophie has made it clear which side she's on. Now, consider the timing. The WNBA just finished its most successful season ever. Caitlin Clark brought in millions of new fans, ratings surged, and attendance records were shattered. This should have been the perfect moment to secure stars with competitive deals. Instead, the league is stumbling so badly that players are openly questioning whether it will even survive next year. The magnitude of incompetence is staggering, and for the Fever, the implications are even more severe.